welcome to my channel. My name is Miriam and as you might have noticed, I like books a lot. I also love reading, so in 2021 I challenged myself to read 365 books in a week. No. I challenged myself to read 365 books in a year. I might have got a bit confused because this is my weekly wrap-up video. In a weekly wrap-up video I'll tell you about the books I read in the past week, and I was so busy thinking about that I made the mistake. So no 365 books in a week. I don't think anyone could ever do that. Maybe like very small children's books, like picture books, but no way that one can read 365 books in a week. But I'm trying to read 365 books in a year. In the past week I read a solid 7 books, which means I'm right on track with my challenge. And I'm still enjoying it, so I'll keep on going. In the weekly wrap-up videos, like I said, I tell you about the books I read in the past week, not to boast about my reading speed or anything like that, but just to keep you updated on the challenge. And so far, I'm doing great. I read a lot of nice books in the past week, but I will tell you all about that in this week's weekly wrap-up video. I always want to be very honest, so I'm going to be honest with you now as well. The weekly wrap-up video is usually about the books I read from Saturday till Friday, so this week's would be from Saturday the 13th of March until Friday the 19th of March. I'm so confused with the dates these days. I was going to say February, but I knew that wasn't right. But to be honest, the last book I will mention in this video I finished on Saturday morning, but I only had to read like 20% and I wanted that book to be part of this week's weekly wrap-up video. For reasons I only understand myself, but I want to be honest about that, so that's why I'm telling you. Let's just dive into the books I read in the past week. The first book I finished was Meet Me at the Cupcake Cafe by Colgan, and Jenny Colgan's books are sort of all the same, but all are different. Usually the characters lose their job or something important and they start a cafe or something like that. And I do not mind it because I really enjoy stories like that. The main character, Izzy, in this story, sometimes he was a bit naive and sometimes he was a bit of an idiot. I'm sorry, there's no other way to put it. But I love the storyline about how she lost her job and turned it into something great. She started her own cupcake cafe in a part of London where everyone said well, you won't make it. And just because all those people said she wouldn't make it, she was more eager to be successful, and she actually was successful. When I read that book, or I actually listened to the audiobook, I wanted to have a cupcake cafe of my own. There was another plus thing on the story. I've read other books by Jenny Colgan where she's also writing about a bakery or a cafe, something like that. And in those books she sort of ridicules people who eat gluten-free, and as you might have known, I got celiac disease and I have to eat gluten-free because otherwise I get really, really sick. And even though this book was filled with all sort of recipes and cupcakes and things like that, she didn't mention anything about gluten-free and people who eat gluten-free that are idiots. So I was really happy about that, and so that made Meet Me at the Cupcake Cafe my favourite book of the week because it was so fluffy and I felt so great when I listened to it. The next book I read was Everything Everything by Nicola Yoon. I don't know for sure if that's how you pronounce her name, but this was a reread for me. I read this book like 3 years ago and I was very curious to see if I still thought this book was great. Apparently 3 years ago I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. When rereading it, I did not expect I would enjoy it so much because, well, for some reason I thought this book was not as good as I thought it was when I read it the first time, but it actually surprised me again. I knew how the story was going to end, but I think it was very well written. In light of the pandemic, it was a whole new experience for me, even though I already read this book, but it's about Maddie who has SCID, like a sickness where you are allergic to almost everything. So the next book on my list was Grijze Apprentice, book 15, The Missing Prince. I picked this book up last Saturday and I started to read it on Sunday, immediately after I finished Everything, the book I was currently reading when I bought it. And I really love to be back in this world, but these last books by John Flanagan seem to be more focused on the adventure itself than on the main characters, on the characters, how they experience things. It's more a plot-driven story than a character-driven story, and I love that about his first books, that was like a very good combination of it. Like the characters learned so much and they really evolved, but in his later books they remain a bit more flat. Yeah, that's a pity, but I still enjoyed the book because, well, I really love this world and I'm a big fan of Grijze Apprentice and Broaderbound books. I will definitely read book 16 because this book actually ends with a sort of cliffhanger. It will be great when book 16 will come out, I believe in December of this year in Dutch. And when I finished Grijze Apprentice, I wanted to do another reread of A Man Called Ove. I remember that the first time I read this book, I read it as A Man Called Ove, and when I read it this time, I tried to say Ove every time I encountered his name. I think I achieved that about 50% of the time. It was lovely to reread this book. Like other books by Fredrik Backman, I think this is like a sort of puzzle you are solving when you are reading the book, and I really enjoy that. Next was my first non-fiction book of the month that I finished, Born to be Mild by Rob Temple, the guy who also runs that page called Very British Problems. And I think I was expecting a bit too much from this book. It's about anxiety because the author suffers from anxiety, but I read I can't remember its title, but by Matt Haig. I will put it in the description because then I will have looked it up. But that was also about anxiety and depression, but there was sort of a way out, and obviously if the author is not completely, well, I don't think you will ever get better from anxiety, but when the author does not grow in it, like learn to deal with it, then the lessons are not as valuable as when the author has learned to deal with it. And I got the feeling that the author of this book did not completely deal with his anxiety, and he appears to be like a sort of grown man child, and he actually admits that himself in this book. And maybe I was just expecting too much from this book. I was expecting like a very great book on anxiety and stuff like that, and it was, well, there were some funny bits and some emotional bits, but it simply wasn't what I expected it to be, and it was not a great book. It was like a medium book. I think I gave it 3 stars, which is like, it's a great book to read, but that's about it. I think I need to do like a video on how I rate my books, because often I don't know that myself, but maybe I should do that in the future. Let me know if you're interested in that. One thing about Born to be Mild, it wasn't as bad as the next book I read. If you follow me on Goodreads, you already saw this, but I read, or I listened to, Looking for Alaska, and because I was listening to the audiobook and not reading the normal book, like a physical copy, that's why I finished it, because the voice of the narrator was amazing. I actually started listening to it because of the narrator. This guy's called Rick van der Westerlaken. He's a Dutch TV presenter, and he presents my favorite TV program. I think that's like the only TV program I watch. And I loved listening to his voice. So he narrated Looking for Alaska. He actually narrated several other books which I'm very interested to read, not books by John Green, but this book was really the worst book of the year so far. There wasn't a plot, and the whole book felt a bit like alcohol and cigarette abuse promotion for teenagers, which I don't think is a great thing. But yeah, no, I got very mixed feelings about this book, and I gave it only like 1 star, which I hardly ever do. I think might have been my first 1-star review ever. I'm not entirely sure on that, I will look it up, but no, this book was bad. Really bad. Let's just continue to the next book. That was an ebook, Big Little Lies by Liane Moriarty. I read the Dutch version. It's like with a lot of books that I show you the English title of, I listen or read the Dutch versions, but I thought I would just share with you the English titles. This book had like 400 pages, but it read like it only had 200 pages. The pacing was really fast, and the storyline was confusing. Like, someone is killed at the quiz night of a school, and someone has done it, but at the beginning of the book a lot of people are like being questioned, and you get to know a lot of the characters, but the main characters, what the story is about, do not have a say in the questioning, so you don't know which one of them is killed and who has done it, because people keep it a secret. And there was a surprising end to the story, and I'm not sure what it says about me, but I was sort of happy about the person that was killed, and I feel a bit guilty about that, but on the other hand, it's just a fictional character, and no, I shouldn't spoil this, so I won't say what I just thought. I read another book by Liane Moriarty, What Alice Forgot, and that was actually one of my favourite books of 2020, and I do like her writing style and the way she tells stories. There's always a mystery. So this was actually the book that I finished on Saturday morning and not Friday evening. I hope you enjoyed this weekly wrap-up video. I certainly enjoyed making it, and that's actually why I keep doing it, because in my previous weekly wrap-up video I told you that I'm seeing a doctor and we're still figuring out what is going on with me, because I'm tired all the time and some other things. Making these videos definitely costs a lot of energy, but I like it so much that I will continue doing it. But on the other hand, this is like the perfect time to read a bit more than usual, because reading definitely doesn't cost energy, and it's like one of the only things, or maybe the only thing, that I can concentrate on. So I thought it would be great if I just read a lot of books, so I will be ahead of my challenge, and when the time comes that I do feel better, I don't have to read as much as I would have to if I just kept on reading on my average speed, if that makes sense. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more bookish content made by me, then please subscribe to my channel. As always, happy reading!